I want to tell you a story today, and this story is in regard to how does one come to a point when you decide to practice spiritual life seriously. There's always that one point. The series of events or series of these points make it into one, but there's always one point that there's something clicks. I want to dedicate myself to practice spiritual life more seriously or seriously, period. So it happened to me. I was a teenager. I think, 20 maybe. And I was very dissatisfied with the life in general because I came from a very small town. And the small town, there's a very, it's a limited how much you can do as a, as a young person. So basically, everybody was living the same formulaic life, going to school, getting married, having kids, having job, having grandkids, and die. This is like a classic. This was a classic living in my hometown. Rarely even people went to university. They were satisfied with what they have. They were satisfied with their own little community. But I was not. I was not happy with this somehow or other. My intellect was not allowing me to, did not allowing me to participate in this kind of lifestyle. I thought there was always more. There was more. So I turned to the so-called alternative lifestyle. I started listening to alternative music or unconventional music. I started experimenting a little bit with hallucinogenic substances. But I realized all these things, are dressed differently. Hair went upwards, whatever at that time was cool, or orange hair, whatever. But I realized this was my desires or my needs were exactly the same as the needs of everybody else. Sexuality was number one. Money was number one. Good comfort was number one. Traveling, it was all very important. And this is exactly these same points were exactly important to those people who are not conventional. Those people who are, in my eyes, boring. All these people, I was looking down at them at times. All these people having jobs, and I know better. I'm reading some special book. But in reality, I realize I have exactly the same needs and the same desires as everybody else. So this was very disheartening to me, especially the drugs. The drugs were so unappealing because by taking drug, I realized I was just using some external agent to make me happy inside, which was completely, after thinking about it, um, counterproductive. How can you be happy inside if you take something from the outside and which makes you happy for 10 minutes or 1 hour or one day? So the next day you'll not be happy. So I wanted to find out what is that what will make me happy full time. So I start reading different books and naturally start looking about some more intellectual support. And I found several books from East, which were interesting to me, or some religious books which are talking about some um, other world. Just a fire brigade or ambulance came. So other world, talking about the other world or better world or different kind of world in this different kind of reality. I was looking for different kind of reality. And then one day one friend came and he gave me one book called Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is, you can see in the link below. This is the very ancient Indian text or spirituality, talks about spirituality, religion, mysticism, psychology, all kinds of wonderful topics in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So I read one part, which is called Third Canto, and this very much convinced me this is finally what I was looking for. Because sometimes we have things we are looking for, but we do not know what are we looking for. So this was for me, there were so many answers which I asked silently, and so many answers to the question I never even thought to ask. So Srimad Bhagavatam was amazing literature, and I read, and as soon as I finished the last page, I immediately turned first page again and I reread it. and reread it. And even now, after 35 years, I'm still reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, because Srimad Bhagavatam is full of amazing knowledge that we can use, particularly spiritual knowledge. How to get out of the material world, and what does it mean to be out of the material world? So anyways, I read this and I was convinced I want to do this. I immediately start following what the Srimad Bhagavatam was describing, and I thought, I want to live this I want to live. I did not know there's any community of people who practice it. I did not know that there's in India temples and in Europe temples of Krishna. I just thought, this is what I want, and I started slowly practicing it. So what happened, the more I practice, the more I realize this is how I want to live. And I came to this point that I actually don't want to live this life, materialistic life, what I lived so far, 20 years. So I thought, okay, let me give myself a date, with this date will be the last date of my conscious enjoying the senses in the material world, meaning intoxication, sexuality, illicit sexuality, meat eating. And I gave this date. And this date was the date where a musician from America came, Iggy Pop. Iggy Pop was my favorite of all times, singer. And this was my idol, you can say my teenage idol. And I thought, I want to use this opportunity, first time to see Iggy Pop, and this will be my last time of my conscious sense gratification. So I went with my friend, we hitchhiked to the place, to the capital, and we went to the concert. We spare changed money for the concert. We stood in front of the posters. There's different posters on the wall, and we were stopping people and said, excuse me, we want to see this man. This is very important for me, because this will be my last day of my conscious enjoying, gratifying my senses. And people are completely confused, did not know what to do with my statement, but they gave us some money, and after some couple of hours we collected money for the tickets. So we entered the concert, and the concert was amazing, as as I expected, and I let myself loose, as you could say, completely. And after the concert, we were invited for another party to some house. So I completed my last day of a sense gratification to the fullest. And after that, next morning, I thought, this is it. In this life, you are not doing this anymore. At least consciously, of course, later on I found it's not so easy to actually even consciously control the senses, because the senses are very difficult to control, actually impossible. Bhagavad Gita says it is more difficult to control it is easier to control the wind than to control the unbridled senses, because the mind wants this and wants to taste this and want to enjoy this, want to touch this, all five, the smell, so the hear. So I decided, okay, from today on, this will be my point. So later on, I try to live as much as possible in this lifetime. And after some time, I went to India, and when I fully dedicate myself to become a practitioner of Bhakti Yoga or the Krishna consciousness movement. And this has been long time ago, over 35 years ago. So even now I'm doing this, but I remember this very day very much. And I think this comes to the life of every person who is becoming a little bit more interested in spiritual life. So for example, in the Bhagavad Gita is another classic text from India, describing so many different topics also, although it's much shorter. It's only 700 verses, but there's so many different topics, and even now analyzed and translated into hundreds of languages. So Bhagavad Gita is a classic of, you can say, Indian spiritual knowledge in general. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the beginning of Bhagavad Gita is a confusion or dejection of the hero Arjuna, this is due to some political arrangements. He was on the one side on the battlefield, and on the other side of the battlefield, there are many other people who could he possibly know. So before the wars, at that time, the wars were conducted, one group of men against another group of men, and they just clashed, and they leave the cities alone, they leave the women and children alone, and whoever wins wins. Or the kings also were in front, like nowadays leaders are sitting in the back, very comfortable, giving orders, and other people are dying. So at that time, the kings were actually standing in the front with weapons ready to charge. So Arjuna was one of those warriors who stood on front. He was one of the famous warriors at the time. It is considered this Bhagavad Gita, this scenario happened 5,000 years ago. So Arjuna stood at this side, and he asked his friend Krishna, who was driving his chariot. This is a long story, but Krishna took him to the middle of the battlefield before it started, because the armies were preparing, and he said, "Bring me to the middle, I want to see who is on the other side." So then Krishna brought him to the middle, and when he saw on the other side all his friends, his relatives, even family, and his teacher and his grandfather, and he was thinking, how can I fight? This is not possible. How can I fight? And he was such a great, staunch warrior, and his bow fell on the ground. And he said, I cannot do this, Krishna. Krishna, I cannot do this. So for Arjuna, this was the time. This was this one moment that he could not find a solution to this material life. So he asked Krishna, please help me. I don't know how to deal with this situation. So Krishna started speaking Bhagavad Gita, which is a spiritual knowledge. And Arjuna, after hearing all this, he decided to fight, because it is a Krishna's order, and also because it was his duty as warrior to do. Anyway, this is another topic. But the point here was that this was his moment, Arjuna's moment, that he decided to not look back anymore. Okay, maybe I want this, so maybe I would not like to fight, but because after all this understanding the spiritual knowledge and his particular position, he decided to do it, meaning to leave behind his material desires, material needs, and actually start caring about his spiritual need. And again, not looking back. So these are some, and also Srimad Bhagavatam, there's so many different stories describing this, like Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj also described in the fourth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Dhruva Maharaj had a situation, he was a 5-year-old child, and he wanted to climb on his father's lap. And his father said, well, you cannot sit on my lap because my wife doesn't like it. Because Dhruva Maharaj was a son of another wife. King had 2 wives. At that time, polygamy was acceptable. So, but one of the wives thought she is more qualified, or she is more suitable to be a queen, while the other were not. I don't understand why. But so the Dhruva, being son of the other wife, he could not somehow sit on the lap. So being warrior from the very young age, this family of warriors, he became angry. And he went to his mother and he said, I want to achieve the kingdom higher than my father's. So how can I do this? He was a very small child. And mother said, out of compassion, you speak to the small kids. And she said, just go to the forest. Usually if you want to achieve some great success, you should go to the forest and do some austerities and meditations. Then you can do. So she did not even know the child went to the forest, because he was very determined. So this was the point for Dhruva Maharaj, this inconvenience in the material world. So Bhagavad Gita describes there are 4 different people to come to spiritual knowledge, to Krishna. Chaturvida bhajante mam. So this is the 4 types of people, in Sanskrit it said, that one who is in need of knowledge, people who are just try to learn things and what is this world about. one who is suffering. People are suffering, and they, because of so much suffering, they thought, I will turn to God, because there's nothing else. And then there's the people who are inquisitive. People are very inquisitive. What is this about? What is this about? People who like to read, who like to travel. And then ultimately there are people who are looking for God, for spiritual realization. These people are very rarer, but there are people who are like this, looking, reading, trying to find out things, and in the end they find it. So this is the you can say little qualification, in a sense, a classification, that these four types of people, of course there are in between also, but these main kind of four groups. And we'll see that, for example, this Dhruva, he was inconvenient, you can say, suffering, and due to suffering he found God, or he found spiritual life. So my conclusion to all this, what I was just saying about this story, about my story, that that one point will come when we are really serious about practicing spiritual life, when we are really serious about finding out what is on the other side, or is there other side at all. This one point will come, and we should recognize it, and we should just, if we have enough strength, or with support with somebody else, go forward and just don't look back. Because looking back is not, sometimes not so, we are not convinced, and this we may not get the, you can say, proper result, or proper realization. Like if Arjuna would say, well, maybe I should have fight, maybe I shouldn't, but in the end he was convinced, yes, this is what I supposed to do. Like this Dhruva Maharaj said, yes, I want to do this. And in my own case, I could have said after this concert, oh, maybe I'll give it another week. No, I thought this is the last moment. And I remember even the date. This was the 5th of February 1991. I remember this date because this was the concert date. And from 6th of February on, it was not so easy, of course, but this was in my mind. I was determined to follow this path. So please follow the path. When the moment comes, recognize it, or you can ask other people to help you out, or you can you can prepare yourself and march forward towards spiritual life and leave the material life behind.